episode 23, I believe. Joining me, as always, today on the podcast, Mr. Daniel Palmer, dpalm66 on Twitter. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. It got really cold here in Philadelphia. And
what's cold up there?
Like waking up to like 41 already, which is really depressing. And I'm not excited about it, but it was good to be home last week. I missed the podcast, but I did get to marry two of my friends as the officiant of that wedding and hang out with the family and ran into you finally. Met
I know. Daniel Palmer got to hang out with two very esteemed gentlemen on Thursday night of last week.
One.
Myself not being the one being the one and only Dr. J. Julius Irving, who we ran into at Johnny's Hideaway, a place that I don't recommend anyone go to ever, but nonetheless, when you see Dr. J walking into Johnny's Hideaway, you follow him. At least I do. But it was good to finally meet you. Hopefully we didn't embarrass ourselves too bad around the good doctor.
No, I hope so too. And I would say, who wants to go to Johnny's should go in the afternoon. My friend Kelby works, and tell her I said hi.
There you go. Very good. Also with us today is Mr. Chad Floyd, and he's got a special image for us.
I figured why not start with a little Go ACC. What we have here is Jameis Winston basically just mowing down the Clemson Tigers, and it has appeared on at least 2 posts this week. I think
2 today.
I might have backdated the GIF for one of the Florida State Clemson live blogs. I'm not sure, but that's what's going on in ACC land. I'm actually up in North Carolina right now. Woke up to 40 degrees here, and I'm back. Sorry, guys. And yeah, that is really depressing. It kind of sucks when it's cold.
Yes, I'm not a huge fan. For those who don't think the Duty Podcast is all about technology, I want you to know that we only had to restart this broadcast once because I couldn't figure out how to get out of the screen share mode. But we've restarted twice, but only once because of the screen share. But all that to say, Chad Floyd, he's handling the technology a little better than I did. I'll try to do my best as host today. This episode is called A Break from Georgia. We're not going to talk about Georgia football other than this very sentence right now, so we're going to be looking ahead. Daniel Palmer, this week in college football, I'm going to lead this a little bit backwards. Any general themes you're looking forward to? Just themes, not talking games, but anything you're excited to see this weekend?
As I've been touting for the last 2 weeks, just utter chaos. I want the sky to fall. I want the worst things to happen to all the other teams, mostly because Georgia's off. But I'm just here to be entertained. I'm here to watch good football. Got some pretty good things in the slate. I'm excited to talk about it.
Chad, anything you're looking forward to this weekend?
It's a bunch of games where it's top 25 teams against teams that are technically capable of beating them. NC State plays Florida State, beat them last year, although Mike Glennon ain't walking through that door, which we could talk about Tampa Bay Bucks football with Mike Glennon too.
Tampa Bay.
Oh, man. Tennessee knocked off South Carolina. They're at Alabama. They're not going to win. But, we should have good, entertaining games where there won't be chaos, but it could be, near chaos.
Very good. Well,
I'm gonna go watch a 1-5 Carolina team try to stay eligible to remain bowl eligible on Saturday, just because why not?
Because you dream big. You dream big, Chad, and that's why you're the official intern of DoDoCrazy.net.
Bowl, here we come.
That's right. We're going to jump into the SEC slate. We're going to skip over the first game, which is actually on Thursday night. This podcast will probably be up Friday morning. So by this time, we will know what happened in Kentucky at Mississippi State. But we don't really care, so we're skipping that. We're going to jump straight to Vanderbilt at number 16, Texas A&M. This is a Vanderbilt team that is probably coming off the biggest win of the James Franklin era. What does that sound? Who was that?
I was on Palmer's end.
I heard no sound.
You turned down sound, didn't you?
I heard no sound.
Okay.
Anyways.
Continue.
We're talking about a Vanderbilt team probably coming off the biggest win of the James Franklin era. We're not going to talk about who they played. Chad, looking at this game, Vanderbilt, any way they stay hot with another upset over 16th ranked A&M?
I don't think Vanderbilt was ever hot last Saturday. Whoever they were playing that we're not mentioning, I think the team that they played just absolutely pooped their pants and lost that game. I think A&M rolls by multiple touchdowns. I don't think it's ever really close. I think Vanderbilt gets their points because A&M's defense is atrocious, but the 55 to 30 range, A&M rolls.
Daniel Palmer, looking at this game, we think Manziel's playing. Obviously, he's an asset on the field. I think that's probably a little bit of an understatement there, but
fair statement. It's very fair.
Yeah. Looking at this,
way to stay grounded.
Yeah, what can Vanderbilt do at all to even make this game worth watching, or is it going to be worth watching?
I don't think so. Perfectly honest, I think it's one of those Johnny Football kind of get healthy games, and figuratively and literally. Hopefully he bounces back fairly well and comes out with a good showing against Vanderbilt. Whoever Vanderbilt played last week, it was more of a meltdown on the other team's end than a big win for Vandy. I'd say the other team, whoever it may have been, lost that game more than Vandy won it. And I think we're going to see a true return to form with a high-powered offense going to Vandy and handing in their hats.
Yeah, I will say that the A&M Auburn game was probably the most entertaining game of the year that I did not watch all of last week. It was ridiculous. I was kind of at a family friend in town, and we were tied up, and I was watching the screen on my phone, and I mean, it was nuts. I've got it taped. I need to watch it again, but pretty ridiculous game. I think you're going to see an angry A&M team that kind of feels maybe a little bit pissed off that they lost a game to an Auburn team that they thought they should have beaten, and is now largely out of the national title picture. So I don't think that bodes well for a Vanderbilt team that's significantly less talented.
And not to mention Vanderbilt's running that redshirt freshman out at quarterback. Yeah. I mean, if there's ever a cure for an ailing defense, it's a redshirt freshman quarterback and a pretty basic offense. So I look for A&M to roll.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I got A&M winning by 17 or so, something like that in my Gwinnett Daily post. I think they're gonna roll comfortably. We've got Tennessee at Alabama, which obviously back in the day was a huge rivalry game, but Alabama's been so untouchable as of late, and Tennessee's been so mediocre that it's hard to call it a rivalry game, at least to the extent that we're used to. But we're at least seeing some vandalism up in Knoxville. Some Alabama fans painted the rock. Some Tennessee fans retaliated. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they basically took a Alabama shirt and posted it on the rock and kind of vandalized that, which seemed fairly immature. So there's that cool sound again. But Tennessee at number 1, Alabama. What are you thinking, Daniel Palmer? Any way Tennessee keeps this within 3 scores even?
I think Alabama's done a great job in the last few weeks of reminding us why they've got that number 1 next to their name. Everyone wants to point to the A&M game as a big defensive letdown for them. This isn't that offense, and this isn't the same Bama team that played that afternoon. I think this is a Bama team that asserts its dominance, that really manhandles the Tennessee team, and I think it's going to get real ugly real fast.
Chad, looking at this game, what are you expecting out of Tennessee as far as maybe or maybe not competing with Alabama?
Well, if you look at this screen share, you'll see that I'm expecting great grammar from all. Mr. Saban, Y-O-U-R next.
His next is in trouble.
Yeah, so they're actually having the Quiz Bowl in Knoxville on the same day, but no, I'm kind of with Palmer here. Saban will take the fact that my formula that I wrote for DudeYouCrazy.net last night had them at 4th in the country. Saban, I feel like, probably takes a slight to everything. That's what people with Napoleon Complex do. Alabama rolls. Tennessee's riding too high. It's ugly.
I have a serious follow-up question for everybody on the pod.
Okay.
So there have been reports about Mrs. Saban out house hunting in Austin, and no one's refuted them yet. To the point where it was asked of an SID at Alabama, and no one said that it's not true. Do we believe any? I'm not saying it's going to happen. Do you believe it's an opportunity for Saban? Oh, the strong nod. The strong nod at all.
Absolutely. All right. You're Nick Saban.
Yes.
I'm not even going to wait for you to finish your question.
Fair enough.
You're Nick Saban. You've got the small man syndrome that we just talked about. You're a guy.
You've already got a statue of Bryant Denny.
That's true. You've done everything you can at Alabama, and you're a guy who, 1, is disciplined, but 2, likes a challenge so that you can test your theory everywhere. You even tried at the NFL level. Why do you stop at Alabama when you can go to Texas, a school with just as much as, as far as resources go, if not more in-state talent? but rebuild another thing.
More and everything.
You want to do, you want to do everything you can because it's going to be an easier rebuilding project than Alabama was, and it's going to look like another great notch in your Saban headboard that only tracks national championships at different schools. It's going to be incredible. Why would you not do it? I would do it if I was Nick Saban. I'm not Nick Saban, though.
Chad, what do you say? Do you agree with Andrew and I?
Well, we did this when we played Pass the Pinkle, which was just an ill-fated test, and we did that. Texas could write him just a blank check. He could make $15 million a year, pay his assistants $1.5 million each, and Texas would still make $80 million in sports next year because they're Texas, and it's ridiculous. As far as places to live, I've been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama multiple times. I've been to Austin, Texas multiple times. I think I would much prefer to live in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
That's very fair.
The people are probably a little less insane in Austin, Texas than they are in Tuscaloosa, and that's saying a lot because they are pretty insane about their football in Austin. I love the idea for Nick Saban just because I don't really like Alabama, and that would just be a lot of fun for me. That Alabama's a stepping stone job.
That noise you hear is Alabama fans violently turning off the podcast and or throwing their listening devices at whatever wall they're near. I think probably a Walkman. If you're listening to a Walkman, God bless you for listening. I think I agree with both you guys. I think it's a total. I'm not saying he's going, but I think it's something that Saban would do. And I've told my Alabama friends this before. You can't get mad at him when he leaves. They say he's never leaving. I said when he leaves, you knew what he was when you brought him in. You probably shouldn't build a statue. Sorry for interrupting. I wanted to bring it up.
I would go for, and we're going to switch topics in just a second because we don't want to spend too much time on hypotheticals, even though that's all we talk about on here. But my thing is, if it's Saban that goes, I don't even blame him, even if I'm an Alabama fan, because I just know that's so in character for him. You look at somebody who leaves, and it's not a podcast if we don't mention Bobby Petrino, but you look at the circumstances that he left every single job he's ever had, you can't be surprised by that either. And I'm not saying that Petrino's as admirable as a coach or as a person or as a whatever as Saban is, but you know who you're hiring when you hire them. You hire people that you spend millions of dollars on. You do your diligence. You know that Saban's a guy who likes to install great systems. You know that they work. You know that that's worth it even if he decides, hey, I want to take this system elsewhere. So if you're an Alabama fan, be unbelievably grateful for what you've had over the last couple of years. We're not saying he's leaving, but if he does, recognize that, hey, you just had one of the most successful eras in college football, and I think especially within the context of modern college football where coaches move a lot more rapidly, that may not be matched again. So I think that's something they need to be appreciative of.
Go for it.
If I may, Nick, I will say this right now, Mr. Saban, if you're listening, I'll throw in a motorcycle and a really cute girl to work in your office if you decide to go to Texas. Just on the Petrino tip, I think it could happen again. I'd love to see how Nick Saban handles the neck brace situation.
And there are more cute girls in Texas than there are in Arkansas, too.
No one denies this.
What I want to know, though, is I have a little bit of a problem with what Andrew said, that Bobby Petrino voluntarily left Arkansas. And I think Palmer could help.
He didn't say voluntarily.
I didn't say voluntarily. I was listening to that.
Trust me.
He burns bridges everywhere. He burns bridges everywhere he leaves.
He can't come back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's why.
And he can't go back to Arkansas. And he can't go back to Louisville. And I mean, that's just his trend.
How do y'all like this when Paul Johnson wears out his welcome? Bobby Petrino to Georgia Tech.
It makes a whole lot of sense to me.
I would love to watch Georgia beat Palmer.
If they don't bring O'Leary back.
You just say, I would love to watch Georgia beat Palmer?
No, beat Petrino over and over again. I'd love to watch that.
Yeah.
Andrew, back on topic. Sorry.
All right, real quick, and this isn't even really on topic. Thoughts on Tennessee, and I kind of called Tennessee fans out last week when I talked about how they think a moral victory, which was their overtime loss to a depleted Georgia team, was a win. But to Tennessee's credit, they turned it around and beat South Carolina real quickly, and we won't spend much time on this. But Chad, do you think that win over Carolina makes you feel, if you're not a Tennessee fan, if you're an outside fan like we are, does that make you more or less optimistic that Butch Jones is going to get that program back to where it needs to be, or do you view that as kind of just an outlier game?
I mean, I think Tennessee's a lot like Nebraska in that they don't have a real strong recruiting base, and that their best years are behind them. So I think Phil Fulmer, your buddy, is going to be, in our lifetimes, the best Tennessee coach that we ever see. I think, Lane Kiffin saw Tennessee as a stepping stone job. I think Butch Jones could as well. So if he gets them firing on all cylinders, I think he could move on to the next best thing, because with Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson all recruiting out of the greater Atlanta area, I mean, there's nowhere they really fit. That being said, Marquez North is going to be a problem in the SEC for years to come.
No kidding.
Big Howard's going to be a problem in the SEC for years to come.
They're going to be a problem.
They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I don't see the creativity that like a Gus Malzahn has at Auburn, and I just don't know how sustainable it is. But you knew they were going to get one sooner or later with the way they played against Georgia before the injuries hit.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to get back to being an elite team under Butch Jones.
Daniel Palmer, any thoughts real quickly just on does that game leave any kind of lasting impact in your mind as far as how you view the entire Tennessee program at all, or is it just negligible?
Yeah, it leaves a huge impact on my mind, because that was a win against a top 25 team that hadn't happened in a long time. This is a big win for recruiting. Butch Jones, first-year coach with other people's kids, came out and won that football game. And say what you will about South Carolina and how they played, that's a win. And Chad, to your point, you say that it doesn't look like it's going to get back to where it was, and that Phil Fulmer's the best coach they're going to have in our lifetime. Hey, man, Phil Fulmer's got a ring. Like, don't act like Phil Fulmer's was just Peyton Manning, where he was MVP of the Citrus Bowl 3 years in a row. So it's to say that this job is a stepping stone. I would agree with you, except for the fact that Tennessee's been there before. There's an established way to do it at Tennessee. They don't really. You're giving me. There's an established way to do it in Tennessee, and they've proven they can. And I think Butch Jones is going to find the blueprint to do it again. I don't think he leaves just because Butch Jones is Butch Jones. I mean, he's not, like you said, he's not as creative. He's not an offensive mastermind, but he will recruit well. He will coach his kids up. And I think what you're saying about Malzahn and him, the difference is Malzahn doesn't have the talent to really line up and do what he wants to do. He's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Whereas Tennessee, I feel like that's a legitimate football team. Is going to be one for a while now.
The last thing I'll say on Tennessee, and we'll move on, is we talk about crazy fan bases. Tennessee is right up there, and there's plenty of bad things you can say about crazy fan bases. The positive is that means crazy donor revenue. And if you can get somebody behind you a little bit, which Butch Jones certainly seems to be doing, all of a sudden you're talking about state-of-the-art facilities, which Tennessee pretty much already has. You're talking about donor-sponsored, unofficial recruiting events, Adidas, all that kind of stuff.
Nevin Shapiro needs to go somewhere as a booster when he gets out of jail. He's got the boats right there.
Yeah. So expect him to be there. But more importantly, you do have, if Butch can get, what's going to be interesting is if Butch can get this fan base excited, even if he uses it as a stepping stone job, all of a sudden Tennessee's a player for a big-time major coach, because all of a sudden people get that tiny taste of success that they experienced last in 1998 with Fulmer. They start to see this really successful Tennessee program and the potential it has, and all of a sudden they're a candidate to hire a $4 or $5 million a year coach once they're done paying off all the other coaches that they're still paying, like Dooley and Bruce Pearl from the basketball program.
Yeah, well, and my contention with that is that they tried to make Charlie Strong a $4 million coach. They tried to make Larry freaking Fedora a $4 million coach. So, I mean, they kind of whiffed their way down the Barskank ladder a little bit.
That's a good point. Let's look ahead at the game of the week, which is Furman at LSU. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to skip that one. South Carolina, number 21, at number 5, Missouri. So South Carolina is traveling to Columbia, Missouri. Looking at this game, first of all, I'll go on a few quick notes. You've been seeing a lot of the normalized scoring models on the website this week, dudecrazy.net. It's very boring. Palmer's shaking his head. The point that I would make is right now I think that Missouri is inflated on every possible level. Their record is great by playing somewhat soft competition. Their 2 quality wins have come against very depleted squads in Georgia and Florida. And I'm all the credit to Missouri. I mean, they whooped Georgia's tail, and there I go talking about Georgia. We're going to skip over that. But I don't know if they're going to be a sustainable power. And if you're number 5 and you're an SEC team and you are undefeated at this point in the season, all the power to you. But that makes you a national title contender. And I just don't see that from this Missouri Tigers team. Daniel Palmer, Am I wrong to assume that Missouri is going to be taken down a notch or two before the season's ended?
I don't think they won the SEC. If that's what you're asking me. I think
No, even beyond that, am I wrong to assume? Let's put it this way in more tangible terms. Will Missouri lose 1, 2, or 3 games, or none, over the course of the rest of the regular season?
I say they lose to A&M to end the season, and they lose one more to Alabama in the Dome. I think that this is a team that it's a bit more complete than I know we want to give it credit for.
Right.
And for all the injury bugs that hit your whatever team plays in Athens, I can't think of the name, and whatever team plays in Gainesville. Well, I can talk about the Gators. It's Gator 8 weeks. Sorry.
Yes.
Whatever injury bugs hit them this year, similarly, a Mizzou fan can tell me that those bugs hit Missouri last year, and they wouldn't be wrong. And I have no response because this is a team that's healthy right now, healthy-ish because they don't have their starting quarterback.
Right.
They do have the best defensive lineman in the league. They do have a defensive end who, if I was trying to block him, he'd give me problems, give me nightmares. Because that kid comes with speed off the edge, but once he's inside you, once those hands are inside, he's got the power to finish around you and to finish at your quarterback. I'd like to see how they're going to do against more mobile quarterbacks, depending on Connor Shaw's true health. We'll see how that happens this week, but we'll see how they do against Johnny Football during the season. But, yeah, I think that this is a Mizzou team that, for not just you, me, and everybody else who's listening, a lot of people wrote off just for being Mizzou. But we may have been wrong, and because they've got big, tall, physical receivers. They've got a running game that knows how to exploit the holes that the passing game opens up, and they've got a defense. And so I'm done begrudgingly. I'm done discounting Mizzou.
Fair enough. Chad, similar question to you, but we'll kind of tie it into something much more relevant. Is Missouri going to lose some games between now and the end of the regular season? And follow-up would be, is one of those this week against South Carolina?
I think they finished 10-2, but those 2 losses are the last 2 against Ole Miss and A&M, so they're going to sweep the SEC East, I think.
Ole Miss.
I thought Florida was the best matchup for Mizzou on paper, just with physical corners being able to take out the width of the field a little bit, but I did not expect Mizzou to hold them to 151 yards.
That was crazy.
While Missouri gained 500 with their redshirt freshman backup quarterback.
Those are really big receivers.
Yeah, yeah.
I figured that out on Saturday. I was like, those guys are huge.
Yeah, I mean, they might actually be bigger than Mike Evans from Texas A&M, size-wise. They're not nearly as intimidating. But
well, if you put them all together, yeah, they're bigger than him.
Well, yeah. Thank you. It sounds like Clarence Beeftank from the Breaking Maddens. But, I think Missouri matches up really well against the South Carolina defense where they can get the ball out quick to those massive receivers against still a not incredibly experienced South Carolina back seven. And if Connor Shaw's not ready to go, I was thinking Florida was going to be able to run on Missouri. Oh, what are you doing?
Scratch my dog's back.
Oh, okay.
It's
and,
normal.
if Florida couldn't run on Missouri, I really don't see South Carolina running on Missouri, especially if it's Dylan Thompson at the helm. I think Missouri wins more comfortably than we would have imagined a month ago this week.
Daniel Palmer, on this game, more specifically, you said already you think the only loss for Missouri is going to be that last one prior to the SEC championship game. But what do you expect in this game? What are we thinking score-wise?
I think, like Chad said, the lack of Connor Shaw under center really hurts South Carolina's offense. A lot of what they do is set up off the read option. It sets up their zone plays. It sets up their play action. Dylan Thompson's not a bad quarterback. Don't get me started there, but I think that Mizzou is this game in Missouri?
Yeah,
it's in Columbia.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's always in Columbia, this matchup.
Yeah, but that's a problem because I don't see a way. Just let's say that they do slow down Missouri. You're not keeping them out of the end zone, and I don't see how South Carolina can score enough points to keep up.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think I like Missouri as far as winning this game. I'm still, I guess, kind of like Palmer said, begrudgingly coming around on them. You're a little further than I am. I'm not quite there, so I have a hard time really feeling great about this game. But that's kind of the gist of the SEC this week. You've got Idaho at Ole Miss, which I'm not going to watch. You got Florida Atlantic at Auburn, which no one's going to watch. So let's talk some top 25 games, and I'm just going to pull up some games here. 1 second, guys. All right, first one I want to talk about is number 10 Texas Tech at number 15 Oklahoma.
Texas Tech is 10?
Number 10, undefeated.
Berry's undefeated.
That's right, that's right. So looking at this game, I know that the Kingleberries are the underdog, a 7-point underdog, despite being ranked 5 spots higher, but they are on the road. All of my models, for what it's worth, have Texas Tech winning this game outright. Daniel Palmer, looking at this game, what are you expecting?
I expect for me to get really annoyed by you citing your models every other day.
Wait till you meet them. They're beautiful.
No, but seriously. Oh, I knew that was coming too. I think this is an Oklahoma team that I couldn't stop myself. I think that first and foremost, this Texas Tech passing offense is going to be is going to see its first real test against the Oklahoma passing defense. That said, you've seen schemes and you've seen combo routes that can beat them before. You saw a lot of crossing patterns in the Texas game. Cliff Kingsbury is no dummy. He's got himself a true freshman quarterback, and I think that they go in and they beat Oklahoma. I'm calling it. I think that Oklahoma goes 0 for 2 against Texas team so far this year, and Bob Stoops, he just being not so big game Bob.
Chad Floyd, any thoughts on this Texas Tech-Oklahoma game?
I think Oklahoma can beat them by just scoring slightly more methodically. I mean, the Bulldozer's been playing pretty well, and I hate calling him that because he's, people just want him to beat Tebow, basically. And I have serious issues with that because I want to block Tebow out of my memory. I just get a feeling that Oklahoma's had one really bad game this year, and it happened in the one game where Texas actually had one really good game. I think they're probably still the best team in the Big 12. I think Oklahoma wins a close game. But that being said, it is the Gus Johnson game this week. So we should have fireworks.
Ooh.
Yes. 3:30 on Fox. I mean, if it's not Gus, I don't know who it is. But
I want to say something real quick. This is the number 2 passing attack in the country, going up against a team that only allows 17.1 points a game. Something's got to give. It's gonna. I know I'm watching. You guys gonna watch this one? This is one you guys are in for?
I will be. I will probably be in Chapel Hill, but if something comes up to where I can't be, I will be watching this one intently.
This is the thing that should come up there where you can't be.
Yeah, the last time I watched Oklahoma was against TCU, and they absolutely shut them down. Unfortunately, TCU's been shut down twice this year. Yeah.
All right, another game we got on the slate, top 25, is Stanford and Oregon State. Oregon State, I wrote this earlier this week, is about as mediocre as you can be and be in the top 25. And as these two esteemed gentlemen pointed out in our pre-production meeting, we're going to call that the 5-minute talk before we start. That's kind of the point of being ranked 25th, is that you are mediocre, but you're still in the top 25. Daniel Palmer, thoughts on this game? Do you care? I kind of feel like Stanford's going to win comfortably.
Oh, I do too. I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be easy because they're at Oregon State. But Stanford's, they've been year in, year out. They've been a really great team. And that one loss this year, I think that's their one loss, first of all. I think they knock up Oregon down the road. But to get to Oregon, you got to knock the Oregon State. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
Chad, looking at this game, are you even going to watch this game? This is the late game. I think it is anyway. I think it's at 10:30.
Yeah, the late game's cool with me because I'll be back in Pinehurst by then. Look how ridiculous this logo looks. Doesn't it look like a hockey logo or something?
You're having a lot of fun with screen share.
I'm having a lot of fun.
He's just showing off at this point.
Oh, yeah. I'm
going to mute him.
I can't. Did you really just mute me?
No, I didn't.
That was real fear, though.
I love how whiny I got there. No, don't mute me, Andrew. No, I don't think a team with a Canadian hockey logo is ever going to beat a good Smash Mouth American football team.
Oh my
and
goodness.
While that has nothing to do with anything,
USA.
Yeah. In actual football analysis, I really like the Crooks guy at receiver for Oregon. I like the fact that Mannion guy's playing way over his head as compared to last year. But Stanford's going to roll over him by about 17 points.
29 touchdowns, 3 picks for Mannion, and almost 3,000 yards already. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be a better game than we think. I think you're right, those Stanford wins.
Yep.
At risk of becoming a Pac-12 podcast, let's talk a little bit about the other big game in the Pac-12, which, of course, is UCLA at number 3, Oregon. Oregon looks really, really good. Their offense is fast. Their defense is good. Manziel's quality. Oregon's offense is fast. We got all kinds of really good insights here on the Duty podcast. But, Chad, any way UCLA pulls off the upset here?
I feel bad for UCLA the same way I felt bad for Washington. Playing Stanford and Oregon can just derail your season.
Yeah.
Back to back. I mean, Stanford, you got to prepare for a power eye, run right at you, smash mouth, and then you've got to turn right around on a regular week and prepare for the absolute chaos that is Oregon football. Unfortunately, it's going to lead to a less compelling Pac-12 championship game between the Oregon-Stanford winner and UCLA down the road. But I think, you saw an inspired defensive effort from UCLA, and they're not going to be able to match that. Or last week against Stanford, you saw an inspired defensive effort. I don't think they'll be able to match that against Oregon. I think Oregon rolls more comfortably than we would suspect, and with Florida State nipping at their heels for the number 2 spot in the BCS, or actually they are the number 2 spot in the BCS, I think it's a good thing. It's going to get pretty wild there between Oregon and Florida State, I believe.
Yeah, Daniel Palmer, first of all, Oregon and Florida State, who do you like more? Who do you think the better team is? And then secondly, more specifically, who's going to win this game?
I think they're both great teams. It's kind of a cop-out, but I don't care. It's our podcast. We do what we want. I think bold move. I think gun in my head, I'd probably say Florida State neutral field right now. But that's for a litany of reasons, not for anything to do with the quarterback. Before I get to my pick on this game, I want to run down Oregon's point totals for the season so far. 66, 59, 59, 55, 57, 45, 62. This sounds like
on the Big Ten?
It sounds like a mediocre basketball score. Like, this is the kind of college basketball Chad likes to watch. Like, mediocre college basketball, not real NBA basketball, not quality entertainment. I will say this. UCLA has speed not to hang with Oregon, but to be competitive. And while you said that they had an inspired defensive effort against Stanford, they've shown the ability to match up on the outside with people. I think this is something of a trap game for Oregon in that the Stanford game is looming. It's next week. Everyone knows about it. We've all got it. Well, somebody has a circle on the calendar. It's not me. But that's the highlight of the season for Oregon. I think it could be – if they start slow, the momentum can get away from them. But I think UCLA loses. I think Oregon hangs another 60-burger on somebody. But I think UCLA scores a bit more points than we think they might.
Very good. We're about through the slate of games. Chad, do you have a bonus game this week that you're excited about?
I'm like I said, and I don't know if it was our production meeting or if it was actually during this podcast. I've kind of lost track. I like Penn State at Ohio State because we all need the Nittany Lions to go ahead and win that game and just get Ohio State fans to shut up forever about them thinking they should be the 4th best team in the country, because they're not. Come on. Also, the NC State-Florida State rematch, Florida State has to be due for a letdown after last week. I mean, anything less than a dominating performance is a letdown. I don't think NC State has a chance, but unfortunately, since I'm in the state, it will be plastered all over our local news media.
Yeah, I think that the dangerous thing about that for Florida State is there's going to be the letdown. I don't think they lose. The spread's 31 points, I think, something like that. Daniel Palmer, anything other than Penn State, Ohio State that you're pumped about?
Yeah, 2 things I'm pumped about. One, I'm right. I was right about Louisville. I want everyone to remember that, and Chad especially.
I was right about Missouri and Auburn.
You were not okay. Whatever. Number 2, could Clemson at Maryland?
Clemson could always Clemson.
They almost Clemson at BC earlier this year. Well, they're coming off of a game where now their coach is saying, "Oh, we weren't. They were better prepared." But you watched that intro to that Clemson FSU game. I got chills. I knew it was coming. That was how you enter a stadium. That's the best atmosphere possible. And you got boat raced. Could you go to Maryland and embarrass yourself? Yeah, you could.
No, I don't think so.
Clemson could. You're saying Clemson can't Clemson, Chad?
No, I know they are capable of Clemsoning in even the least Clemsonable scenarios. That being said, Maryland is coming off a 63-point loss to Florida State and a 24-point loss to Wake Forest, in which they lost their two top receivers. It's last year all over again. This time they have nobody to catch the ball instead, nobody to throw the ball. Clemson's going to run over Maryland.
I defer to your ACC knowledge, but I will say this. They lost to FSU by about the same number that Clemson did.
I'll conclude talk on Clemson with a quick quote from Dabo Swinney that everyone who listens to this has probably already heard, but this is from College Football Talk, which is an NBC Sports affiliate. Swinney watched film of the game, meaning the Clemson-Florida State massacre that we opened with the image of. Swinney watched film of the game and concluded on Tuesday that if the two teams played 10 times, and I quote, "We'd probably win 5, they'd probably win 5. That's great stuff right there by Dabo Swinney. He never disappoints. Daniel Palmer, closing thoughts. What are you up to this weekend?
This weekend is going to be a nice, relaxed weekend after 10 days of self-harm in Atlanta. I'm probably going to fire up my world-famous, not so world-famous, chili for the first time this year because it's a little cold out. Take the dog on a long walk. Chad Floyd has experienced the chili. Thumbs up on the screen. Enjoy some college football where I'm not as emotionally invested. Oh, and the new Batman game is coming out, so I'm going to be playing that all weekend, too.
There you go. Chad, what you up to this weekend? Obviously, going to North Carolina.
Well, first of all, I want to say that's why you don't give Dabo Swinney nice things.
Well done.
Other than that, I am recovering from an eye injury sustained playing golf yesterday. I'm probably going to head up to Raleigh tomorrow and hopefully not punish my liver too badly, and then head over to Chapel Hill Saturday and also not do the same. And
how do you hurt your eye playing golf?
I hit a pitching wedge. It came up a little short, caught a little fat, and it hit me right in the eye. And I've got golf course chemicals in my eye. My eye was swollen shut this morning. It was awful. It's the stupidest thing I've ever done.
This sounds made up.
Some follower from Dude You Crazy on Twitter actually responded to my tweet that this is the stupidest golf injury ever in the world, and she says, "I'm sorry, that's not funny, but that is the stupidest injury I've ever heard of." It's like Sammy Sosa sneezing.
Wow, that's pretty bad. Well, I got absolutely nothing going this weekend. The team that we're getting away from is off, so that's kind of nice. Taking it easy, watching a whole lot of football. That's about all I got. Gentlemen, anything in closing?
Go get yourself a new pocket protector because we're coming for you, nerd, while you're building these new models. So just be on
this is the guy who also introduced his own model today.
Yeah, but it was Bavaria. It's too easy.
See, yeah. And as a man without a model, I stand alone in the sea of nerddom. I just go by the gut and by the heart and by the gut heart. I tell you what I feel.
The Gart.
The Gart.
Very good. All right, well, guys, have a great weekend. Thanks for being here. That's all we got.
All right, have a weekend.